once again, it's dry as you head out the door early on this Tuesday morning, but it won't stay that way all day long. We are tracking some snow initially, and then a change over to a wintry mix and even some plain rain. And that's going to be mainly for the southern half of the area, especially south of Albany. But in some of those colder spots where the surface area stays closer to freezing, and we see that warmer air move in with this warm front, again, that's bringing us that precipitation today. We're going to look at a change over to that wintry mix. Some freezing rain and sleet will be likely, and that's going to lead to the potential for light glazing of ice. So it could be quite slippery out there at times. It's going to be this afternoon through this evening through tonight, so take it easy. Off to the north, you'll be dealing with more of that snow. I say more, but really only expecting a few inches out there, but just enough to make it slippery, so just be careful as you're heading out the door and driving home from work later on today. Chris, back to you.
All right, Christina.
That yogurt looks good. Getting hungry out there this morning. All right, now talking about, once again, our next opportunity for some wet weather. We've got some snow on the way, then a bit of that wintry mix, potential for some rain. Mixed bag out there today. Now, we'll start off this morning with a live look at Pittsfield, and we're already starting to see some of that sunlight peeking above the horizon from below. 10 degrees to start off on that CDPHP first warning weather cam. Got a few clouds out there, but the clouds will continue to increase as we go throughout this morning, and you can kind of see that out ahead of that next approaching system. Satellite and radar. We've got the leading edge of some snow and even some pink and purple popping up there. That's a little bit of a wintry mix pushing through Pennsylvania. Now, as this gets closer to us, again, we're cold enough to really support mainly wet snow to start before we change over to more of that mix as we go throughout the afternoon. Temperature-wise, you can see we've got temperatures mainly in the teens and the lower 20s to start. We've got some single digits as well. 8 degrees Saratoga Springs, 5 Stephentown, 8 Great Barrington, 22 in Claverick, 13 in Rensselaer, 11 Voorheesville, and 13 degrees in Hunter. Temperatures coming up from there right around the freezing mark for most in the Hudson Valley, topping out just above that as those temperatures come up as we go throughout the afternoon and the evening hours today. Timing this all out with that hour-by-hour forecast, again, clouds continue to increase from south to north throughout the rest of this morning. As we get closer to 11 a.m., this is when we'll start to see that wet snow pushing in from south to north, spreading across the region into the early afternoon. So widespread wet snow to start. And then as we start to see some milder air work in later this evening, this is right around 5, 6 o'clock, we'll see a change over to more of that wintry mix, the potential for some sleet and even some freezing rain. So this could lead to slippery travel for the evening drive. Temperatures then continue to come up closer to the surface. That will lead to a change over to even some plain rain for those areas, mainly south of Albany, south of I-90. Lingering snow up north, that's where we'll see more of that snow adding up, but this all kind of kicks out of here as we get closer to midnight. Overnight and into the early morning hours on Wednesday, we'll start off with lots of clouds, but then we'll clear on out and we'll see partly sunny skies heading into the afternoon. So an improvement out there for your Wednesday. We'll even talk about some milder air in play. Before that, though, here's a look at your snowfall forecast. Mainly south of I-90, a coating to an inch. Potentially some spots closer to 2 inches, and then 2 to 4 once you go up into parts of the southern Adirondacks, up towards Lake George, Saratoga area, southern Vermont, the northern Berkshires there. We'll see a couple inches adding up. That's where we'll linger with more of that snow all day long. Now, temperature-wise, lower to mid-30s for highs today. Again, the increase in clouds and wet snow off this morning, but with those clouds increasing from south to north already, again, that's unfortunately going to make it a little bit more difficult to see. But something cool that you could get a chance to see this morning. And if you are able to check it out, make sure you send us some photos if you can. 12 degrees in Schenectady this morning, feeling like 5 with a light breeze. It's quiet and dry to start off this morning, and you can see temperatures are in the single digits and teens for the most part out there. 11 in Albany, 10 Medusa, 8 in Johnstown, and 3 below 0 in Piseco. Satellite and radar, you can see it's quiet and dry with those clouds increasing across the region. Off to our south, though, we're tracking the leading edge of some wet snow and that wintry mix with that next approaching system. I'll have more on the timing of that and when you might have some slippery travel on the way coming up in just a couple minutes. Back to you. Once again, as we start off your Tuesday, it is dry out there. We've got increasing clouds from south to north across the region this morning, so becoming mostly cloudy pretty quickly. And then look at this. As we get closer to midday, that's when we'll start to track that wet snow developing and pushing into the area. So late morning towards lunchtime, that will start to start. And then as we go throughout the afternoon, we'll see that wet snow generally transition over to more of that wintry mix and ultimately even some plain rain by later on this evening. But once it gets going, again, it's going to continue all day long. High temperatures will top out in the lower to middle 30s as we go throughout the afternoon. Again, the system or the disturbance that's bringing us this opportunity for that wintry mix, that snow today, is a warm front, and that's going to bring in some milder air aloft and lead to the potential for more of that mixing. So talking about some slippery travel for the evening drive today, your morning commute looks fine. Average high for this time of the year is 41. We've got temperatures well below that today, but yes, we've got a warm up on the way with temperatures in the 40s Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 50s for Saturday and Sunday, and then some more warming on the way heading into next week. More on that with the 7-day coming up in just a couple minutes. Back to you. Early on this Tuesday morning, but it's not going to stay that way for all that long, as we will track our next opportunity for some wet weather as we get closer to midday and into the afternoon. We'll start off with a look at the Albany skyline, where it's 19 degrees out there on that CDPHP first warning weather cam. Sunrise coming up closer to 6:30 this morning. Here's a look at that satellite and radar, and you can see we've got clouds increasing across the region ahead of that next approaching storm system. Leading edge here showing some snow, a wintry mix, and some rain all associated with it. Now, we've got some cold temperatures in play right now, so for the most part, we're talking about this starting off with some wet snow. And then as temperatures creep on up, we see some milder air moving in with that warm front. That'll be mainly aloft, some colder air close to the surface. We'll start to see some mixing, and that's going to lead to some slippery spots. 8 degrees in Saratoga Springs, 11 Voorheesville, 13 Hunter, 13 in Rensselaer, milder in Claverick at 22 degrees. Highs will top out right around 33, 34 degrees. That's in the metro area, colder in the hills and mountains. So temperatures will be coming up throughout the day, and overall, again, leading to more of that mixing and ultimately some plain rain by later on tonight as those temperatures continue to come on up. Now, we'll jump right into it. We'll look at the hour-by-hour forecast. Clouds increase throughout the morning, but it's dry for the morning commute. As we get closer to 11 a.m., starting to see that wet snow moving in from south to north across the area. And then as we go towards midday into the afternoon, we'll start to track some widespread wet snow before we start to see this transition. Again, some of that milder air moving in will lead to more of a mix. We'll see the potential for some sleet and even some freezing rain as well before temperatures come up, and we see mainly plain rain for areas south of Albany. That snow lingering off to the north. As we get closer to midnight, this all kicks on out of here. And then we've got some drier weather for Wednesday. This clears on out, and we'll see generally partly sunny skies as we go throughout the afternoon Wednesday. Now, when it comes to accumulations, not expecting all that much. Mainly talking about a coating to an inch, maybe 2 inches. That's for I-90 and points on southward. Further north into the Mohawk Valley, the Adirondacks, towards Saratoga area, southern Vermont, the northern Berkshires, 2 to 4 inches. That's where we'll have more of that snow lingering a little bit longer. Off to the south, we'll have more of that mixing. Now, either way, accumulating snow, couple inches, or some freezing rain or sleet will make the roads a little bit slippery. So for the evening drive later on today, give yourself some extra time. Could take you longer to get home with those slippery conditions. Otherwise, highs in the lower and mid 30s. Again, snow initially.